On my wedding day, my drunken husband Daniel climbed into a maid's bed. Furious, I demanded a divorce, but Emily analyzed the situation and urged patience. Admiring Emily's renowned virtue, I found kinship with her. From then on, we became inseparable. She constantly shielded me, confronting Daniel whenever he misbehaved. A year later, I died mysteriously. The Morgans falsely claimed I poisoned myself out of jealousy over a concubine. My reputation became the jealous tailor woman while Emily seized my family's wealth, donating it to the crown. The emperor rewarded her with a marriage to the 8th prince, elevating her from a merchant's daughter to a princess. Reborn as my ghostly resentment lingered, I vowed revenge. Chapter 1. The door crashed open as cold wind lifted my red veil. Before anyone spoke, I tore off the heavy headdress. Lily stumbled in, bleeding and weeping. "Miss, Daniel violated Daisy. What do we do?" I froze. Wasn't I dead? Had I truly returned to this cursed wedding night? Pinching my cheek confirmed it. I'd been reborn. Last life. I'd endured hours under this oppressive bridal crown until Lily brought news of Daniel assaulting Daisy. Enraged, I tried confronting him but Emily intercepted, kneeling dramatically. "Sister-in-law, think of your mother's health. Scandal would destroy the tailor's reputation." Her crocodile tears manipulated me into silence. Now, as Emily rushed to embrace my knees again, I kicked her chest. She collapsed, gasping. "Lily, take me to the garden," I commanded. Maggie followed protectively. No more games. This time, Emily wouldn't manipulate me into silent suffering while she stole everything. The real drama was just beginning. When I first married into the family, I brought a considerable entourage for personal maids alone, with over 100 servants, stewards, and laborers under my command. At my summons, dozens of servants marched with me in a show of force. "There in the front pavilion," Lily pointed. Maggie immediately led the charge. Daniel had just risen, his inner robe still untied. Drunk and unsteady, his fingers fumbled with the ties. Daisy cowered in the corner, sobbing hysterically. "Silence him! Beat him senseless!" I ordered. Before Daniel could comprehend what was happening, a black sack descended over his head followed by a flurry of blows. Still furious, I grabbed a stick and struck him several times myself. His initial groans gradually faded to silence. Maggie looked at me uneasily. "Miss Sarah, we mustn't cross the line into manslaughter." Suddenly 2 sturdy matrons dragged Mrs. Morgan into the courtyard. "My son! Don't hurt my boy!" She threw herself over Daniel's body as I descended the steps. Truthfully, I hadn't intended to kill him. "Sarah Taylor, you feigned gentleness but reveal yourself a viper." Mrs. Morgan shrieked, emboldened upon finding Daniel bloodied but breathing. "A viper? What does that make your son? Was this the noble gentleman you promised during marriage negotiations? Spare me your hypocrisy." I spat in her face, leaving her speechless. Emily arrived then, pale and supported by maids. My earlier kick had landed harshly. "Mother, don't quarrel with Sarah. This is Daniel's wrongdoing," she said weakly, reaching for my hand. I recoiled in disgust. "Your family's disgrace needs no courtesy from me. You'll reap what you've sown." I summoned a litter to carry Daisy back to our quarters. Ignoring the relieved glance Mrs. Morgan exchanged with Emily when I didn't demand divorce. Let them think they've escaped lightly. Settling last life's accounts required more than mere separation. The midwife among my retinue examined Daisy and prepared contraceptive brew. Last life. She'd quickly conceived, been turned against me by Emily's manipulations, ultimately betraying me. That betrayal cut deepest. Daisy and Lily had been my childhood companions. Sisters I'd planned to establish well. never intending them as concubines. Yet she drugged me on Emily's orders, though madness claimed her after witnessing Lily's fiery execution. This life I'd let her live, her violation resulted from my failure to protect her. She might yet prove useful. Maggie tearfully clasped my hands after ensuring Daisy drank the brew. Her maternal devotion rivaled my frail mother's. Last life. Emily had fabricated gambling accusations during my absence, having Maggie beaten to death. That loss sparked my first confrontation with Emily, leading to my poisoning. Never again would I let her slowly isolate me through calculated warmth. Next morning, Emily arrived dutifully for greetings, mirroring last life's subservience. Lily brought wash water, which Emily seized to prepare a towel. "I may have injured you yesterday in my anger," I remarked coolly. "You were justified, Sarah." "I'm unharmed," Emily demurred. "Your brother's disgraceful conduct overwhelmed me. I'll visit him later. The beating may have been excessive. Let him reflect in solitude." "No need for your attention," Emily insisted, every word dripping with loyalty more fitting a blood sister than the offender's sibling. Thus she deceived me before, luring me into her traps. The tailors, though merchants, commanded respect through our scholarly lineage. Our dwindling numbers left vast estates vulnerable. Who'd expect a sheltered heiress to be outmaneuvered by minnows? This humiliation demanded redress. After dressing, I announced, "I'll apologize to Mrs. Morgan for yesterday's impropriety. Even righteous anger shouldn't breach decorum." I entered the room and performed the customary greeting. Mrs. Morgan reclined on the divan, initially intending to show displeasure, but straightened up upon seeing my compliance. Given her family's misconduct, they should count themselves fortunate I wasn't making a scene. "Sarah, Daniel had too much to drink that night. He's not usually like this. Once he recovers, he'll properly apologize and you'll build a good life together." The matriarch clung to her pipe dream. I pretended to dab my eyes with a handkerchief, secretly sneering that scoundrel would never fully recover. Emily approached with saccharine concern. "Sister-in-law must be exhausted from the journey. I've always managed household affairs, including the family businesses. Simply instruct me if you need anything." In my past life, she'd infiltrated my staff under the guise of learning, systematically replacing my loyalists. This time, I'd reverse the game. "You'll be married off someday and can't remain here forever. As Daniel's wife, I should assume the matriarch's duties. We can't burden you indefinitely." Emily froze, shooting a panicked glance at her mother. "Sarah, you're newly arrived and unfamiliar with." "Then I'll learn from Emily. Unless," I tilted my head innocently, "you plan to remain unwed? What would become of the Morgan family then?" The marriage reference silenced her protests. I immediately assigned my people to key positions, their generous gratuities ensuring swift integration. As for Daniel, his superficial wounds mysteriously refused to heal despite endless physicians. I'd ordered the staff to keep him barely alive. After all, a widow's position would complicate matters. Now focused on Emily, I recalled her previous scheme. The Morgans, mere royal suppliers, couldn't approach the 8th prince normally. Emily's heroic rescue of Princess Charlotte during the Flower Festival had provided that opportunity. Royalty's boats don't capsize accidentally, not when the Morgans controlled half the capital's waterways. This time, I arrived uninvited at the festival. Countless vessels crowded the peach blossom stream, petals swirling on sun-dappled waters. Noble barges jostled upstream while Emily's modest skiff lingered downstream. The princess's oarsmen, likely bribed, let their vessel drift perilously close to ours. "Row faster!" Charlotte stamped her foot, the motion capsizing her boat. Emily signaled her crew to assist, but in their haste, collided with a larger vessel. Both ships overturned, leaving Emily soaked through in clinging silk. I rushed over with theatrical dismay. Sister! Have you no regard for family dignity? Quick! Fetch dry clothes! Emily shivered. Makeup streaking. All my spare garments went to the princess. We were so focused on her rescue, I shrugged apologetically. Her venomous glare vanished behind a demure facade. After discreetly delivering Charlotte to her retinue, I escorted my drenched sister-in-law home. Before we entered, Mrs. Morgan's wails echoed through the courtyard. My Emily! Both my children ruined. How shall I live? Mother! I'm perfectly fine. Emily snapped, mortified. I'd sent messengers ahead reporting only the accident, not the rescue. Mrs. Morgan alternated between hugging her daughter and gasping at her dishevelment. What happened to your clothes? Emily flushed crimson. A boating mishap. Enough questions. I interjected smoothly. Let's get her changed before she catches chill. The sodden silk left little to imagination, a delicious predicament for the virtuous Emily Morgan. Mrs. Morgan flushed with discomfort and hastily pulled Emily inside. Within 2 days, an invitation arrived for Princess Charlotte Windsor's Spring Blossom Banquet. My mother-in-law nearly fainted from excitement. This was beyond her wildest dreams. Though the annual event was commonplace, our family had never before received such an honor. In my previous life, the invitation had gone to Emily, who claimed newly-wed Sarah shouldn't attend social gatherings. Being averse to tedious formalities myself, I'd gladly stayed home. This time, the gilt-edged card bore my name. I took the invitation straight to Mrs. Morgan's chambers where Emily stood, eyes glittering with poorly concealed longing. Sarah, you must take Emily, Mrs. Morgan implored. She's of marriageable age now. We can't waste this opportunity. I nearly laughed aloud. Since when could merchant-class girls waltz into aristocratic marriages? Instead, I smiled demurely. But the invitation specifies only one guest. Wouldn't bringing Emily be improper? Nonsense. She's family. After relentless pestering, I pretended to relent, though my true plan involved bringing both women for maximum spectacle. Emily emerged in a cloud of pink taffeta and pearl-encrusted shawls, her usual reserved demeanor replaced by coquettish charm. The banquet segregated genders, women in the rear gardens, men in the front pavilion. Emily's gaze kept darting toward the masculine laughter. Last lifetime, she'd seduced the 8th prince here. Though history had erased her role, I'd ironically resurrected her chance at social climbing. I settled Mrs. Morgan among matrons exchanging veiled assessments of debutantes. Their conversation hummed with matchmaking undertones, mothers appraising potential daughters-in-law. My mother-in-law's eyes shone, anticipating some duchess might favor Emily. That pink-clad girl has elegant bearing, remarked a rotund noblewoman whose presence commanded deference. Whose daughter is she? Mrs. Morgan's breath hitched. She shot me a triumphant glance, poised to leap forward. Unfamiliar. Must be her first season, came the dismissive replies. As Mrs. Morgan strained toward the circle, another matron drawled. Oh, I recognize her. Isn't that the girl who fell in the peach blossom stream? Required a boatman's assistance while soaked through. The garden erupted in scandalized whispers. Why parade her here after such disgrace? What family would risk their reputation? Mrs. Morgan blanched, swaying dangerously. Meanwhile, Emily attempted to slip toward the men's pavilion. Mrs. Morgan intercepted her at the Moon Gate, dragging her daughter past my feigned protests toward our carriage. Have you lost all sense? She shrieked. Our family's honor lies in tatters. When Emily demanded explanations, I sweetly recounted the gossip. They claim you were half-dressed in a boatman's arms. My sister-in-law spluttered denials about damp skirts and elderly attendants. But each word worsened her predicament. Mrs. Morgan's palm cracked across Emily's cheek, an unprecedented act against her pampered favorite. "You've ruined us with your recklessness." I comforted my weeping mother-in-law, massaging her shoulders as she mourned her wasted efforts. By nightfall, Mrs. Morgan took to her bed. I summoned the physician, personally brewing her tonic. "You're my only solace, Sarah." She sniffled into my shoulder. "Proper and dutiful, unlike my foolish children." I nodded sympathetically, well aware her golden child's collapse brought perverse satisfaction. The carefully constructed fantasy of Emily's perfection had shattered, leaving only bitter reality. "Mother, the best course of action now is to arrange a marriage for Emily immediately." If word spreads about recent events, I deliberately trailed off. The matriarch sighed heavily and nodded. "Sarah, I'm too distraught to think clearly. You handle this." "Mother, we shouldn't act hastily. Let's wait for the current gossip to subside first." Emily happened to approach the doorway and flushed crimson. "How shameless! An unmarried girl meddling in marriage arrangements?" The matriarch silenced her by hurling a bowl of medicinal brew at her feet. Seizing the opportunity, I demanded, "Emily, you'll surrender the storage room keys to me immediately." "But sister-in-law, I can." "Give them to her," the matriarch roared. "You'll remain confined to your chambers." As Emily reluctantly handed over the keys, her burning glare betrayed her realization of being outmaneuvered. I almost smiled. This game became interesting with worthy opposition. Visiting Daniel later, I found him writhing in bed from his back injury. "Recover well, husband," I said coldly. "Your brightest days lie ahead." "You venomous witch! You're trying to kill me," he shouted, aggravating his wounds through his thrashing. My eyes caught a blue handkerchief he tried to conceal. With a glance, Maggie swiftly confiscated it. Back in my chambers, Daisy served tea with trembling hands. Our relationship had fractured since the incident. "Is this yours?" Maggie tossed the handkerchief before her. There are so many linens," Daisy stammered, collapsing to her knees. "Check if she's with child," I ordered after dismissing her. Maggie paled. But she drank the prevention tonic. Easily vomited up. I countered. Time was crucial. Emily needed to be married off before any new scandal emerged. The next day, matchmakers arrived with potential suitors' portraits. Emily intercepted me en route, rushing to dispose of me. "Sarah? Better than rotting unwed," I replied mildly. "You think manipulating mother gives you power over my fate? Unlike you, I don't scheme against family." I walked away as she screamed after me. "I'll dash my brains out before marrying your gutter trash." Her empty threat amused me. The real punishment would be watching her claw for advantage in an inferior marriage. Our previous life's debts remained unsettled. The matriarch frowned at the suitor options. "Madam Morgan," the matchmaker hedged, "those wanting your wealth lack status. Respectable families, well, your daughter's reputation." "What slander?" the matriarch spluttered. "Truth," I murmured. "We're limited to fortune hunters or minor nobility now." My fingers traced a viscount's portrait, perfect for Emily's humiliation. The game continued. The matchmaker glanced at me and blurted the truth. Mrs. Morgan collapsed onto her couch, face ashen. Though crudely phrased, the harsh reality remained: Emily had dug her own grave. Though Mr. Morgan is remarrying, the Morgan family's prosperous. His previous children have all married and moved out. Less hassle. The matchmaker pressed, sensing Mrs. Morgan's silent acquiescence. "How old is he?" 58. Mrs. Morgan nearly fainted, 2 years her senior. After hours of fruitless deliberation, we three sat gloomily until a servant burst in shouting, "Madam! Young master's taken ill." We rushed to the study to find Daniel gasping his last breaths. I shot Maggie a sharp look. She'd been tasked with maintaining his fragile condition. Yet Daniel died despite our efforts. Mrs. Morgan wailed inconsolably, her last pillar of support gone. While I arranged the funeral, Mrs. Morgan fell ill with Emily constantly attending her. Suspicious. I eavesdropped outside their chamber. Mother. Without brother here. If you let them marry me off and that woman mistreats you, I kicked the door open and slapped Emily. How dare you? Mrs. Morgan roared. Why? Is backstabbing your daughter-in-law the Morgan family tradition? I'm breaking my back arranging funeral rites while you plot behind closed doors. My retort silenced them, though their exchanged glances spoke volumes. Emily whispered urgently. Keep me here. With brother gone, you'll need protection. Mrs. Morgan declared. We'll postpone Emily's marriage talks. Sarah. Surrender the storehouse keys. Am I no longer a Morgan after my husband's death? I scoffed. You never consummated the marriage. Emily snapped. You might remarry and steal our wealth. I laughed. The shop's answer to me now. Your old retainers are gone. Shameless hussy. Mrs. Morgan gasped as Emily dragged Daisy forward. Visibly pregnant. Meet Aunt Daisy carrying Daniel's heir. Emily crowed. Mrs. Morgan trembled with joy. My Morgan legacy endures. You'd recognize this bastard? I seethed. Of course. My grandson will inherit everything. Emily gloated. Mrs. Morgan's gaze turned steely. We'll discuss your position later. Sarah. Her chess game was grand. With Daisy's unborn child, the Morgan family wouldn't fall. And she could uphold the household. Mother. Are you certain about this? I turned to Mrs. Morgan again. Absolutely. The matriarch straightened her posture, radiating righteousness as if prepared to bow me to the end. Then let's reveal what she's truly carrying. At my signal, Maggie suddenly seized Daisy's hair, dragging her from the bed. Mrs. Morgan and Emily gasped, lunging forward to intervene. But Lily and two other maids pinned them down mercilessly. Don't harm my grandson. You viper. Stop this. Mrs. Morgan wailed hysterically, desperate to sprout extra limbs to halt them. Morgan family servants tried to interfere, but my guards barred the entrance. Sarah. Cease this madness. Emily abandoned her usual gentility, screaming hoarsely. I remained impassive, watching Maggie work. Daisy struggled until two sharp slaps from Maggie left her bleeding and subdued. The maid ripped open Daisy's garments. Abomination! Sarah. I'll haunt you till, Mrs. Morgan's curse died as she gaped at the pillow tumbling from Daisy's clothes. The maid now kowtowed frantically. Miss Sarah. For our childhood bond. Spare me. I'll never dare again. As Lily released them, Mrs. Morgan stumbled forward, clutching the pillow and staring at Daisy's flat stomach in confusion. Mother. I was deceived. I thought Daniel truly had an heir. I was too joyous to verify. Emily improvised swiftly. I smirked at her desperate lie. Truly? You knew nothing? Mrs. Morgan murmured vacantly. Nothing. Mother. Sell this harlot immediately. Emily wheeled on Daisy venomously. Her servants dragged the weeping maid toward the door. Wait. Selling's too lenient. For deceiving her masters. Beat her to death. I said coolly. Miss Sarah. She forced me. Daisy pointed accusingly at Emily. Liar. Mother. Who do you believe? Emily tearfully embraced Mrs. Morgan, who clung to her daughter, sobbing. Enough theatrics. Such touching family bonds. So easily fooled. I applauded sarcastically. If you've any decency, leave. Haven't you destroyed the Morgans enough? Emily knelt dramatically. You'd have me depart. Emily? I feigned consideration. You're a widow now. Just go. She implored. Leave us. You curse. Mrs. Morgan wept. I'll go, after settling accounts. Wouldn't want blame later. At the doorway, I glimpsed Emily's relief before turning back. What accounts? She spat. Mother. I addressed Mrs. Morgan. Grant your son justice for his blood debt. Emily froze. Blood debt? Mrs. Morgan paled. When monks found Daniel's corpse suspicious during funeral rites, I notified authorities. The investigation concludes soon. Shall we hear the verdict? What? My son, poisoned. Not ill. Mrs. Morgan swayed, pointing trembling at Daisy. That harlot? The magistrates will tell. We're no constables. I guided the stunned matriarch out, smiling at Emily's despair. Aren't you coming? At the courthouse, Emily confessed without coercion. Desperate to avoid marriage and cornered by my pressure, she poisoned Daniel and bribed Daisy to fake pregnancy, planning to substitute a foundling later. I never imagined the truth would surface so quickly. On the day of Emily's execution, I went to bid farewell and brought news of Mrs. Morgan's death. Ever since Emily's imprisonment, the matriarch had refused food and drink, weeping daily until her eyes bled. In the end, she starved herself to death, unable to comprehend how her beloved daughter could harbor such venomous cruelty, poisoning her own brother. The Morgan family was once a prestigious family, yet their matriarch's stubbornness became their undoing. They coveted the Taylor family fortune, never suspecting their schemes would backfire so catastrophically. Death brings peace, I said coldly, staring at the hollow-cheeked woman before me. The vibrant beauty I once knew had vanished, replaced by this ashen-faced prisoner whose stained uniform hung in tatters, revealing bloody gashes on her legs. At least this ends your suffering. Her eyes burned with manic intensity. My only regret is being born a woman. Had I been a man, this kingdom would have been mine to command. Gender never doomed you, I countered. With your talents, you could have been an exceptional society matron cherished by husband and in-laws alike. Your greed poisoned everything. What do you know of struggle? She spat. You were born under fortunate stars. I make my own fortune. I straightened my sleeves, through clean hands and clear conscience. Turning away, I added, our paths diverge here. No words will bridge this chasm. As I walked from the execution grounds, sunlight warmed my face. This lifetime, I'd reclaimed what was mine. Let Emily's coveted princesses and princes play their political games. I'd find freedom in open fields and mountain streams, far from courtly intrigues. True power lies not in domination, but in choosing one's own path.